Good evening. Welcome to the Beverly Hills Board of Education's regular scheduled meeting for this February 28th, 2023. I'm going to call the meeting to order, and to lead us in the flag salute, our mission and vision and community pledge, I will call up our National Merit Scholar finalists. I think who's here is Alexandra and Sa and Miles. You're all here? Okay. Come up here. Come lead us in the pledge, and then there's paperwork for you to sign when we're finished. No. Some liability waivers, you know, that kind of stuff.
Hello. How are you guys? So afterwards, here's if you guys want to split up and do the mission, vision, and values after the pledge. Thank you.
You lead us in the flag salute first.
Please rise for the flag salute. Face the flag. Put your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now can you tantalize us with your reading of the mission, and vision, and community pledge?
Of course.
Thank you.
So, Beverly Hills Unified School District's mission is for educational excellence.
Our vision is our students will realize their full potential to thrive with integrity in a complex and changing world.
Our values are excellence, integrity, wellness, inclusion, safety, and community.
Beverly Hills Unified School District Community Pledge. The BHUSD community acknowledges that in order to achieve educational excellence, we must act within integrity and respect for each other and our learning environment.
Therefore, I pledge to model civil behavior and respect in all communications and in public while maintaining a culture of honesty.
Listen and acknowledge differences of opinion. Do my part to protect an inclusive culture in which we honor the relationship between all school community members and honor our learning environment, including how we take care of our school and personal property.
By holding ourselves and each other accountable to this pledge at all times, we will promote an environment of educational excellence that will allow our entire BHUSD community to thrive.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. You could stay up there for a moment. Just enjoy the spotlight. You did a wonderful job. See how they just divvied up the pledge? We didn't even have to tell them how to do it. Adults can't do that. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda, please?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
I will second.
Thank you, Dr. Stern and Mrs. Marcus. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Dr. Berge, any closed session action?
Yes, thank you, President Margot. In closed session this evening, the board approved the settlement agreement between employee number PG 1007305 and the Beverly Hills Unified School District by a vote of 5-0. And that is it.
Thank you very much. And now I will turn it over for the teacher-student spotlight.
Great. We're going to kick us off with, is Casey Barnes in here? So,
playing the role of Casey Barneson will be Dr. Berge.
So we would like to thank our students for their stewardship to our district. They are winners of our Merit Award Scholarship, and we are just so proud of the work that they've done. I mean, they have now qualified for continued scholarships and awards in our school district. It is a very small percentage. I believe it's like 3 or 4 percentage points of students that reach this potential to represent their school districts, and they go on to keep going in other contests as well. We're just so proud of you, and thank you very much for how you've represented Beverly Hills High School, but also Beverly Hills Unified School District as well. This is no small feat by any student, and if you look at the GPAs and the workloads for these students, they have just represented us very well, and so we want to thank you very much for your performance and continue to see your great things in the future and very soon approaching graduation. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you. There was also Ariel Goldberg, who is not with us right now, is also a recipient of this. So shout out to him as well. For some reason, all my years doing this, they always come in fours. The National Merit, they always, I don't know what it is. Right, Marcus, you're shaking your head, right? Yeah, I don't know what it is. Beverly Hills, give them 4. Okay. Moving on, I will turn it over to Dr. Scott. So many students to recognize. How wonderful this is.
Okay. Thank you for letting me be here tonight to recognize actually some teachers and some students. We have an amazing after-school tutoring program where we have 20 to 40 students showing up every day to get some extra help. Some of it's our struggling students, some of it's our middle-of-the-road students, some of it's our advanced students, but it's just an open-door policy for any kiddo that wants to get some help with their math or any of their homework, in fact. And so I've got some teachers to recognize, and I know it's unusual to be the middle school principal recognizing some high school students, but the high school students here have been giving up of their time every day, 4 days a week to come. And so many of our middle school students get one-on-one time with someone. And it's just amazing that they are willing to do this. And as we were standing out in the hallway, and Miss Halsey, one of our counselors, was asking them, like, oh, what are you guys getting out of this, and is this beneficial for you, and what are you seeing? And one of our student tutors said for her it was coming full circle, and that because she had someone help her when she was younger, and now she gets to give back, and what an honor it is for her to be able to give that to the students at middle school. So it's just such a blessing to be able to have this. So I thank you guys. I know I haven't actually met you guys, but I'm just so thankful for you. So our amazing teachers that I have to say, were giving up their time in the afternoons before I even put the ask out there. So I emailed the whole staff and I said, is anyone willing to do this after school tutoring? And these teachers said, well, we're already doing this. Yes, we can open it up to the whole school to come to our classrooms, and now I get to pay them for their time, and I'm so thankful that they are willing, and we're willing to do it without being paid. I mean, these are truly amazing teachers, and they make a difference on our campus every single day. So the first teacher I would like to have come up is Jessica Losi. Come on up. Thank you. And then Joseph Perez. He's one of our new math teachers added to the math department. We're very excited to have him. Okay, and then one of our new amazing English teachers, Hannah Croft. Come on up. And then our amazing Marcy Scholler, who I think many of you guys know. She's been in our district for a while. Thank you all so much. So there's 2 teachers every day that are working with kids, and then our amazing high school students that are working with our kiddos. So thank you guys so much. What? Anyone want to say anything? Oh, sure. I think Miss Croft, I'm so sorry. I just have to brag on them, so we'll try to be quick.
Thank you all so much for having me. This is my first Board of Education meeting and my first year in the district. So for all of those faces that I know, hi. For all of those that I don't know yet, nice to meet you all. I would like to say, as a student in middle school once upon a time, I was also the kid who needed after-school support. I was in Kumon. I had my math teachers sitting one-on-one with me every day after school for an hour. And as an adult, as a teacher, now that I've started my teaching journey, I have the opportunity to do the same thing. I get to now be that teacher who gives time back to the students to help them succeed. And it is an honor and a pleasure, and I love that I'm doing this. Thank you.
Thank you, teachers. Now I would like to invite up, so I can only take credit for the teacher part, getting them recruited. I have amazing counselors at BVMS, and so my counselors took it upon themselves to reach out to the high school, coordinate the students. They keep track. They're giving them their hours for community service. They are literally doing all of the work to help these amazing high schoolers come to BVMS every day. So Miss Holsey and Miss Park, please come on up. I would love for you to call up our students.
I just want to say that you guys have been amazing, and I introduced this program to the high school kids. I was here at the high school, as everyone knows, and I put it out there and I said, this is great for college recommendation, but more importantly, it's life transforming to be able to help other kids reach their potential and connect with them. And I feel, after we talked in the hallway, that they got a lot more than they gave so far. And I think it's going to continue to flourish as a program, and we're incredibly grateful for all of your time, and the kids really love you. Just want to say that.
Yeah, and echoing those that spoke before me, it is really an honor to be able to honor you guys tonight. So thank you. Okay, we're gonna honor you guys one by one. Amanda Geller.
Thank you. Thank you.
Isabel Minosans. Rowan Horowitz. Nur Yilmaz.
Thank you.
Chase Goralnik. Is it Spilek here? Not yet. Okay.
Where'd he go? No?
Not yet.
Okay. Ryan Smith, come on up. Floriana Marzok, come on up. Oliver Leon. Thank you. Tyler Jansen. Atessa Regalado, whose brother's here too, who was at our middle school last year. And Isabella Sapphire goes by Izzy.
Thank you so much, students. I know that you are inspiring my Beverly Vista Middle School students each and every day that you show up for them. I know it means a lot that they see a young adult showing up to help them for free and to work with them. So you inspire them. You inspire me to continue doing what I do every day, and our teachers and our counselors. So thank you. And I know Chase wanted to maybe say something real quick. So you want to come on up? Yes, thank you. And then that's it, I promise.
That's great. Hello, everybody. I'm Chase. Hi, how are you? I just wanted to say something about my time at this program so far. Going into it, I thought it was really going to be just some kids who simply were struggling with their education. And so obviously most of them are that, but more importantly, what I think this program offers to the middle school students is a guidance and a light to look up to. And I think that's really important because based on what I've seen from the middle school students, it's a lot different from when we were in middle school. It's a whole different group of people, for better or for worse. And I think they need the proper guidance. And that's what I've really learned from this experience, is that the most important thing is to guide them in the right direction. Then just underneath that is to help them with math. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm just going to see if my colleagues have any remarks quickly. If anybody has a remark, speak now. Or
I'd love to say thank you all for what you're doing. You truly are changing lives and inspiring our learners for today and for tomorrow. And just Chase, that was really well said, and I just really appreciate how you captured that with your words. So thank you all for your dedication and passion.
And with the COVID gap, this has really helped get these kids caught up from learning that they lost at home online. So
In more ways than one.
Thank you. It's just sitting up here and seeing such a full house tonight is incredibly gratifying. And to our National Merit Scholars, thank you. You make us so proud to see the smile on Mom's face, really warms my heart. So thank you for being here. To our teachers, taking the time to bridge the gap and uplift our kids and the high school students. This is what it's all about, and it's just such an honor to be part of this community. So thank you to everyone for the role that you're playing in making this work.
Well, I can't outdo my colleagues who've expressed themselves so beautifully, but I'm sure that I'm beaming here with pride for the district, for the work that you all do, and you couldn't make me prouder that you're giving back. And of course, to my former students who are finalists, I'm so proud of all of you, but I'm so thrilled to see the two of them that were former students, and they know it. So again, I'm beaming with pride with everything you do, and setting the standards for maybe those who would like to do it again next year and the year after by setting up the kids who know that this is a possibility. So thank you.
Thank you all for your excellence and your dedication to academics and to doing your very best with some of the things that the teachers present to you. And for those of you that are peer tutors, I hope that you realize, and I'm sure you've learned, just how difficult it is to be a teacher and to convey concepts when there's someone who seems not motivated in a certain subject or really seems to have a block that you just can't understand. Why can't they get it? So I think it's really a great exercise for you guys to see just how much our regular teachers are able to do on a daily basis, and it really is an expertise. So thank you for putting your hand in that.
Thank you for all of your service to our community and our National Merit Scholars. I think, did we lose one? That's all right. Thank you for waving that banner high for our high school and keeping that bar set where it needs to be. I appreciate that. I would invite, I know you all want to cut out. I'm going to move right to our community spotlight speaker right now. So if you would like to quickly take a seat and be involved in this part, I'm going to bypass my other part here until afterwards. So if you need to go, you can go. But I will let you disperse so we are not a distraction, and congratulations to all of you. Excellent work. Oh, they're staying, they're going. They're staying, they're going. Who knows? Okay. We'll do a quick logistics pause and... All right. Great. So I am going to just move one thing out of order just so we can not keep our guests waiting at all. And I want to, before I start, thank Mrs. Wells for arranging our community spotlight for this month. And I would like to, I was given a introduction, but it was texted to me, so now I have to fight for it. Our speaker tonight is a resident of Beverly Hills for 18 years. Married, proud mother of 2 phenomenal sons. She came to California in 1962 at 17 years old from Meridian, Mississippi to attend Pepperdine College. Graduated in 1966 and taught school for 2 years. The profession never leaves us. She left teaching, started working for IBM as a system engineer and regional technical instructor of hardware systems and software programs for 22 years. Well, I didn't even know that, Irma. Wow. That's staying power. She and her husband had developed real estate, and they worked as a mortgage banker with Wells Fargo Bank. She was a consultant for banking systems and currently works as a real estate consultant. She has done community service in tutoring, working with young boys and girls in elementary and secondary schools, mentoring foster girls, and works with the veterans in Westwood and with Meals on Wheels. How do you fit this all in? Her hobbies include reading, playing tennis, listening to music, dancing, and politics. Is the last one actually a hobby? And she feels that service is the rent she pays for being able to live in this great country. I want to introduce our speaker for Black History Month, Mrs. Irma Hopkins.
Good evening, and thank you so much for that introduction. And thank you, Mary, for inviting me and the rest of the board members for allowing me to speak to you this evening. As it was noted, I'm Irma Hopkins, and I'm a proud mother of 2 sons who have really done an incredible job in their responsibility to also be of service and give back to the community. But more important, I was able to get through 20-some years with them and never had any really serious problems. I never had to go get them out of jail. I didn't have to deal with drugs. I didn't have to deal with any illegitimate children. And they followed the rules. We had very strict rules in our household. And we instilled values beyond what is expected. They were going to be successful, and we ensured that by making sure they got a good education. They walked out of college, and they didn't owe anybody anything, and went to grad school. And then we said, you have 3 months to get out of our house. They were gone in a month. They were glad to get out of our house. But anyway, at any rate, I had an humble beginning, and I was blessed to have 2 parents, family of 7 kids. We're all a year or 2 apart, and I was lucky and blessed to be number 6 of the 7 children. My parents were tired by then, and it was easier for me and my younger brother. But I'm the one that continued to strive and push, and I was mentored by so many wonderful people. We lived in a village in Meridian, Mississippi. It was only 50,000 people, the population there, and I grew up in Jim Crow. But it didn't deter us. All 7 of us, my parents ensured that we went to school, we lived in the church, we got a good education, and they got us out of their home. And I was very fortunate. I had a scholarship to go to Jackson State. It's a historically Black school in Jackson, Mississippi. And my 3 brothers and their wives and my sister moved to California. And they begged my mother to let me come out here. And it was at a time when the civil rights movement was really heating up in the South, and I had a mouth. And my parents were concerned about me because I was involved in the movement. And they said, your mouth will get you in trouble. And they were very concerned about me going to school in Mississippi. So as a result, my brothers and sisters who were here, they begged my parents to please let her come here in California to go to school. And I didn't know anything about Pepperdine, but I read about it and heard about it, when I'm starting to search for schools. And when I found Pepperdine, my parents said, that's the school, because we lived in the church. And I said to my parents, when I graduate, I'll never go to church again. They said, yes, you will. I left, came to California in a Christian school. We had to go to chapel every day. We had to take 12 units of religion to graduate. That was the biggest blessing and the milestone that opened doors for me. Those teachers cared. They nurtured us, maybe 10 or 15 kids in a class, but we got good education there. And as a result, here I am, this little girl from Mississippi who went through the Jim Crow era, but my parents made a commitment that we would all graduate from school and go to college. We always had food on our tables. We had love in the home. We had extended families. We're losing that now. And our parents instilled in us the value of love, respect, family, and God. And we lived by those principles. And it's unfortunate that our kids today aren't getting that. And it hurts me because I taught school for 2 years. And it was because of the kids that I had to get out of there. I was at an inner city school, it was Carver Junior High. Kids were burning teachers' cars. This is in the 60s. They were attacking teachers, but they never bothered me. They protected me because I showed love and respect. And if they were in the halls, I said, come in my room, but if you come in here, you're gonna sit down and do work. And they would come and sit and do work. Other teachers caught hell from them, but I was very caring and nurturing and concerned because I had lived a different life than most of these young people. And they just had no clue what love and importance of the educational opportunities that were there for them. So as a result, they were burning teachers' cars. They never touched my car. They always protected me, and I would bring them in my room and stay after school to work with them. And some of those kids went on to college and had kept up with me for years afterwards. And it's just heartwarming and it's disturbing for me to see what's happening to our babies today. And we have to start back to being parents, get those phones and those computers away from our kids. We have to start taking them to church. A lot of us don't go to church anymore because we're tired after working all week. But we have to make some sacrifices for our babies. And our country is in a crisis now. So it's up to us to save our kids. And education was instilled in us. My aunt taught school. My mother was a teacher. But with 7 kids, she had to give up work and stay home. But we had pigs in our backyard, hogs that we ate, pork. We had chickens. We had rabbits. We had crops of food. So we had everything we needed. And we were what we call po. It wasn't poor. We were po. But we were rich in values. We were rich with family. We were rich with the Christian foundation. And that's what it was instilled in us. And it's made me who I am. And I get emotional about it because I hurt when I see our babies, what they're going through now. And it's up to us to make that difference. So when I look at where I came from with the civil rights movement, and I was in it, and if you read about Mississippi Burning, the movie, James Chaney and I grew up the same street, went through elementary, junior high, high school together. We were in the civil rights movement together. It could have been me. Those 3 young men, Sherna, Goodwin, and Chaney, were killed. And several months later, they found them buried in the swamps. And I thank God every day that I got out of Mississippi, because knowing me in my mouth, I may have been in that ground with them, but I was so fortunate to have my parents move out here. They came 2 years later to live in California, and they loved it. And they did not live to see me get married. They didn't live to see me, well, no, they did see me graduate from college. And my younger brother they didn't see. But the struggles that they went through to get us through school, it's not that hard today. And there's no excuse for what's happening to our school kids. I taught school the 2 years. Those kids were so disobedient, I'll just say, that I went one summer, the summer after 2 years, I went, saw an ad for IBM. I went, walked in. They said, we're not hiring the receptionist. And positioning ourselves as we go through life, it's so important. It's not what you know a lot of times, it's who you know. And I walked in, the receptionist said, we're not hiring. I said, well, I saw an ad in the Times, LA Times, that you guys were taking applications. And she said, oh no, we're not. I'm walking down the hall to leave. God again. One of the young ladies who went to Pepperdine with me saw me leaving the building. She said, what are you doing here? I said, I'm here to interview. I heard that they were hiring, and your receptionist said that they weren't hiring anymore. So she said, come in my office. She was the executive assistant for the director. I'm sorry. She was the executive assistant for the director of IBM. And she said, I want you to take, I don't know why they are calling me. That's my son. But so she said, come in, sit down, let's talk. She says, what do you want to do? I said, I'm tired of teaching. I want to leave. I'll call you back. Oh, I'm sorry. I'll call you back. So my kids are really protecting their mother now. I lost my husband last year, so they're very protective of checking on me. And so as a result, she said to me, you're going to take the test. I said, well, I heard the test was very, very difficult. I'll come back. I'm going to study before I take the test. And she said, no, I want you to take it now. I took the test. 2 weeks later, I was called in. I had a job. 22 years later, I was a systems engineer. I did hardware, software, and I also was on the regional staff. I supported the whole Western region, training CEOs, programmers, analysts, hardware, software people. And this is the little girl from Meridian, Mississippi, that had no clue what a computer was when I walked out of there in 1962. But as a result, the opportunities that I have been able to achieve and succeed at, it's been through not what I know a lot of times, but who I know. So it's so important that we instill in our kids in terms of positioning themselves with friends, the support of the teachers, the support of the family. We lived what we called a village in Mississippi. Everybody knew everybody. When you got out of line, you were whipped. When you got home, we got a double whipping. You didn't ever want the teacher to call your parents, because that was serious. And so we don't have that village anymore to protect our babies. And it's so important to have the extended families. And that's what we had. And that sustained us and kept us on track, because my neighbors would whip us and send us home. We got another whipping. So you knew you better walk a straight line and not do things that, what my mother would always say, do not embarrass this family. Never embarrass this family. And as a result, I didn't embarrass the family too much. But I just want us to understand what a great country we live in, and to have gone through those years in Mississippi. It taught me so much in terms of love, family, God, respect, education. If you're given an opportunity, take advantage of it and do the best you can do. And that's what I did. And I'm now, my husband passed last April, and we were blessed to have 54 years of marriage. We dated 4 years before we got married, so we were together 58 years. We didn't live together then. I married out of my parents' house. That was not in the cards back then. So I was blessed to have a husband that was loved me, respected me, took care of the family, took care of the kids, and I'm on a new journey now. It's about me, protecting me now and my kids. And I have a son that just got a big promotion. He is working as an investment banker with B of A and Merrill Lynch, and all the VPs report to him. He could become a CEO, and he's been studying hard. There are a lot of tests he has to take, so I counsel him and advise him, and strategically, he's positioning himself to move forward. He went to SC, joint JD MBA, out in 4 years. He played volleyball his first year in law school. He was moot court, represented SC at national. He was president of the first and second year class. In third year, he ended up being VP because they were immersing the MBA into the curriculum. But he got out of there in 4 years and out of my house in 3 months. So we've been blessed that we didn't have to go get anybody out of jail or take care of somebody's baby that they had. He did Berkeley undergrad. And our second son went to UC Santa Barbara. I said, you have the opportunity to go to grad school. He chose not to go. He was making too much money working, and he's still doing well. He had a dealership here on Wilshire and Weatherly, and he's very happy selling high-end exotic cars, and that's his passion. But I just feel that the opportunities are there for everyone, and it's up to us to ensure that our kids take advantage of those opportunities and get a good education. And in our school back then, they taught industrial arts. Kids learned how to do auto mechanics, electrical wiring. They were able to get jobs when they got out of high school. I know we don't teach those things today, but it's not a bad idea to reconsider that, because college isn't for everyone. And our kids need to understand there are a lot of ways to make an honest living without selling drugs or roaming the streets making babies. There are opportunities there, and it's up to the school systems now to reevaluate these curriculums, because we're losing too many. And that's kind of my story. I'm blessed. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Irma. Colleagues, any quick remarks?
Thank you so much, Irma. It's so wonderful to hear your story. You've lived such a rich and full and wonderful life, and I'm so excited to see what your future looks like, because I just know that you're going to be continuing to be contributing so much to our community as you go on your journey. And I just so much appreciate that how you've emphasized how important it is, how important values are, and in terms of love and education and your faith, and how important it is to have community and mentors in your life to really guide you, and your family, or your extended family, or the family that today that people define as their family, but how important that is to be able to enrich your life and for us to enrich our children's lives. And the last thing I would say is that I would just love to introduce you to Cindy Dubin and our Career and Technology Education program, because I think you would be a great advisor and mentor in that program. So thank you for your time, and I just appreciate you sharing your full and rich life with us.
Well, I want to thank you. You know, it was hard for me to say no to you when you asked me. I almost did, or I think I may have, and then you said you started talking, because going through this new journey, you know, it's very difficult for me to stand up and speak now, and I did it for years, but I did it for you and the kids and the other parents and the other administrators here. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
We all appreciate it.
Very well said, concurring with Mrs. Wells, but also I just really appreciate your honesty about who you are and who your family was and is to you. And it's just much appreciated to know your story, your background, which is different from mine, but the same, all at the same time. So it's so appreciated. And actually, we are having a career day on, I think, March 15th. And so maybe now I'll have to call you up and ask you for another favor, if that's okay. Thanks.
Of course.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, Irma, we go back probably about, I'm not sure how many years, but we started together walking, and I need to know, I never really knew your story until tonight. So I really
it's a big
appreciate
one.
your
I have
share.
a lot, but
well, I'm
I don't
just
wanna
telling
bore
you, you were a friend who walked on the walk with me, and
Yes.
we talked about everything.
Everything.
But we never shared each other's stories, and I need
Yeah.
you to know I appreciated to hear your story finally. So, and I really wanted to thank you for making the message very clear of the values that you and I both hold so dear as parents of people that grew up in another era that can know know these things that were very important to us, passed on by our parents. So I think you've made that clear, and I hope our children and our parents are out there listening to how grateful they should be and how wonderful and our life is because we had wonderful upbringing. So thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
I loved hearing your story tonight. Thank
There's
you.
more.
Nice to meet you. I think we are Facebook friends.
Yes.
But nice to finally meet you. I really listened very intently to your story, and what struck me is, well, two things in particular, is the gratitude you have for this country. We're at a time when morale for this country is at an all-time low, and it definitely has its problems, but there are some strands of amazing freedom in this country that I think, I appreciate, and I see you appreciate too. And I'm also struck with the notion that the village feel and also the rules that were, weren't doubted, they weren't contested by children at that time. And at the same time, it sounds restrictive, but it's not. It actually holds the kids.
The glue.
It's the glue that holds them together. And if you were the same way with your sons, which I imagine you were, I am positive they didn't turn around and say, you were too strict. I bet they thank you every day that you were. And I know this is true. We're at a time where it's like a democracy for kids, and it's, they make the rules. How would you like to be punished is the old joke, or the current joke for baby millennial parents. But anyway, I really appreciate and respect what you had to share, and I'm very impressed and enjoyed it. And I'd also like to go for a walk sometime too, if you want. Come on. Okay, let's do it. All right.
Irma, thank you so much for being part of the spotlight today and this month and sharing. I do have a question for you. Can you help me get one of my sons out of the house?
Of course.
Okay, thank you.
Of course. Yes.
Do you do free whippings?
To continue, we have one public comment. I'm going to bring up Victoria Tate because this is on this issue. So you can come up with your comment. Thank you very much, Irma.
Sure. Thank you.
I'm going to try to do this quickly because you guys know I don't like doing public speaking. I wanted to first start off with last meeting that we had. There was somewhat of an apology given and it was a Maya Angelou quote was given. But my thing is, moving forward, when we apologize, we have to say the thing that was done wrong and why we're apologizing for it, or else it still leaves hurt feelings. The topic I wanted to talk about was the board working with PTA parents and other members of the community to make sure when it comes to February and Black History Month, we are doing more. Black History Month is a federally observed holiday, and its celebration, although there has been disparaging rhetoric and attempts to silence or remove Black history by calling it CRT or other things. Black History Month is American history, a history that tends to get overshadowed and is subjected to harsh criticisms. Despite the fact that everyone has benefited from the contributions and achievements of Black Americans, the fact and the reality is everyone is 1 degree away from the contributions that have been made by Black Americans. There is no war that African Americans have not been a part of. There's no American victory in those wars that would have been won without the sacrifice of Black bodies. Many times these Black bodies were made to stand at the front lines, and they were the first whose bloods were spilled for our country. Christopher Atticus, a Black sailor, took up arms and was the first African American to die in the American Revolution on March 5th, 1770, and what we call the Boston Massacre. Julius Ellsbury is a 22-year-old naval mast attendant who was the first Black man from Birmingham, Alabama, and the first American to die during the December 7, 1941 surprise attack on Pearl Harbor. World War II would not have been won without the contributions of Black troops, including the Tuskegee Airmen. Even when it comes down to rights to vote, it would not have happened for many of us if it weren't for the contributions of Black Americans, including Ida B. Wells, Sojourner Truth, and the Deltas. It's a Black sorority. So I want to I know my time is running out, but I wanted to give a thank you to Horace Mann, so Craig Bugsby, the principal at the time, who first allowed the first students who had integrated into Beverly High Schools to speak at his school last year. And I also wanted to take the opportunity to thank Dr. Scahn and his Assistant Principal Waters, who allowed the alum to come to their campus yesterday. We have had a lot of disparaging, racially charged language on our campuses that need to be dealt with. And it was great for the students to see 2 Jewish American BHUSD students and 2 African American students come up and speak about how they first came in and they integrated and the challenges they went through and the common bonds they had and ties they had. And they're still friends. And there's 65, 66, 67. They will still, drink you under a table at Portavias. So it was great. We got lunch. It was soul food. And they sat in the library and they sat with the children and they just had discussions, not as older gentlemen speaking to kids, but as BHUSD students, to speak about their differences, to speak about why Black History matters, to speak about the integration program, to speak about how we have more in common than we have than our differences. One of the gentlemen who spoke, Alan Nerob, shout out to Uncle Alan. He is a PR and he has represented Denzel Washington, Beyonce, Shakira, the list goes on and on and on. And he said something very important to the students. He said, when the students integrated, that it was not, even though they thought it would benefit the Black students, the benefit and the gift came to the white students and the Jewish American students because they got exposed to cultures and lifestyles that they did not know of. And he said if it weren't for that inclusion in those lessons given to him, he wouldn't have gotten the big names like Denzel, Lawrence Fishburne. And I will take it a bit further and say that these discussions and things need to happen, because not only will it benefit your children, it benefits our children as well. I am 35. I did not know what a Persian Jewish person was until I got here. Every Jewish person who I grew up with was European Jewish. So that was a gift to me and to my daughter, who now tells me to put some respect on her name, and when I call her, it has to be Savijun. So if there's any way we could work together to come and fix these things, because the children, we tell our children to be inclusive, to let everyone care, but what I'm seeing is we are telling them, but we're not showing them. And the thing that made the integration program so successful is they had the backing of their parents, because many parents were Holocaust survivors themselves, and so they wanted to be included, they wanted to protect, they wanted to reach out to the Black community who's going through the civil rights movement. But I see here, there's divisiveness amongst the parents. We don't sit down, we don't break bread, we don't talk about these things unless it's Multicultural Week. We'll take a quick picture, put it on the Instagram, call it a day. We have got to do better, especially if we're bragging and boasting that we promote academic excellence. That's just a title we can't give ourselves. We have to want it, we have to earn it, and we have to prove that we are excellent. So I'm sorry I went over time. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Okay. I'm going to continue to juggle stuff around. We're going to go to the consent calendar right now, and I'd like to know if anybody's pulling any items, please.
I'd like to pull, I'm not sure, hold on one second.
I'd like to pull the one regarding the building A restaurants, just so the community knows what's happening there.
D, letter D.
Yeah, yeah, that's right, D, please.
Okay. Okay. The safe plans are a C. Is that what you? Yes, I was pulling that. So.
Thank you.
C. Okay. So I will make a motion to approve the consent calendar minus item B1, C, and D.
Thank you.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Go to item B1.
I will make a motion to approve item B1.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mrs. Marcus and Mrs. Wells. I just need to. I pulled it. Yeah, I have to abstain, so I'm just going to make it easy and abstain from the whole thing. So.
Okay.
Thank you. So, if any other comments? No. Great. Okay. So, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? One abstention. Motion carries 401. Item C. I'll make a motion for the approval of the 2022-23 Safe School Plans.
I'll second the motion.
Thank you, Mrs. Marcus. And I know we have Mr. Mead here. Yep. It's all yours. And
Good evening, everyone.
I'm sorry, Mr. Mead. Did anybody have any specific questions before I let Mark speak?
Just comments. You want to wait till the...
Oh, let's wait till he presents.
I had one question, so maybe, and it will probably be answered in your presentation, but really just want to understand what the big differences are with this program versus last year's, and the improvements and the improvement in the process of how you revise these and to be able to present to us tonight.
Sure, I'd be happy to answer that. There's two aspects. Are we referring to the comprehensive safe school plans and how that's different, or the whole program in general, or two separate parts? Okay, great. Well, as far as the comprehensive safe school plan, you know, each site has been doing them for years. So this is a consistent thing. And if you go to the sites and you watch the drills, the emergency plans, you know, whether it's evacuations or field partners, those logistics, the sites do a great job. They've been doing a great job for years. So that was really nice. But in terms of the comprehensive safe school plans, one of the things we did right away is I started asking a bunch of districts, what are they doing with their plans? Because it's really a compliance checklist in a lot of things. And we happen to use something called a secure dock tracker. We use it for our single single plans for student achievement. So it's this thing that we already have. It is a great way to make sure all of the comprehensive compliance aspects are included. So we went to that, and a lot of districts that are neighboring use it as well. So it's something that helps make sure that you meet all your compliance goals. And if you read it, you'll see most of it is board regulations and things like that. So, and then each site completes their own portions. So what we did was we put it all together. So one of the things I really liked about this process is when you're going to the principals advisory councils at each site, they know that their plan and all the other plans are going through the same process. I think that's helpful both for the parents and students and staff who are on those groups, as well as for the community at large to know that there's this uniformity. So that's a big difference this year, is using this very specific singular method. We also had direct collaboration with the sites. I think this is a little bit different. Previously, before I came into this position, there hasn't been an educator in this role. And I think that's a tough place for someone to be, to come and to try to interact with leadership at sites, with teachers, with staff and PD, and not have lived it before. I think there's a certain bridging element that happens when the person who's in this district role has done the plans at a site level, has had the experiences, the reunion gates and things like that. I think that really helped. So there's a unifying ingredient that I don't think was there last year. And this is just for the plans, but it's actually true. Big pictures, we'll get to in a minute. And I don't know for sure if the person in my role formerly did what I'm about to say I did, and that's different. But I don't believe it happened in the same way. We had a lot of reviews and collaboration with BHPD, multiple people, including the SROs, but not limited to the SROs. We also sent it to 2 or 3 members of Beverly Hills Fire Department to review, and also Beverly Hills Emergency Management. So 3 different partners that we work with all reviewed it as well. So I think this kind of unifying ingredient is something that I don't think was really there before. So in terms of the comprehensive safe school plans, like I said, sites have been doing a great job for years. I think this unifying ingredient was different. And I think certain sites really felt that difference in a good way, in a positive way. They felt a greater degree of support and uniformity and things like that. So in terms of the comprehensive safe school plan, I think it went really well. And like I said, the sites have been doing a solid job for years, and you can see that in all their drills. But kind of bring it all together in a single platform that feels unified was different, I believe. So to answer your other question, what's different? Right away at the beginning of this year, the Joint Regional Intelligence Center came and they worked with all of our sites, just kind of helping us with some audits and things like that. And they had a lot of really great things to say. But one thing they said uniformly was the district simply having an executive director of school safety, just by having that position, is remarkable in and of itself. And one of the things I would say that's happened this year, and I do think that this is different as well, is because I think it helps that I'm part of the district and that I know all the sites and I know the site leadership, and I've also been an educator. But I think even regardless of that, having someone in this role who's an educator, right, is a really, really important aspect in this. So I think there's been a unifying ingredient this year with the Director of School Safety and the Command Center in terms of bringing this Command Center infrastructure into the fabric of BHUSD. Previously, they were kind of an independent, it felt like, organization. Now, there are people who were in there who were awesome then and are awesome now. And I am extremely grateful to have Sean O'Connor, Ryan Damavandi, and Anthony Medina in that group. They each bring something very, very specific and helpful. So we kind of overlap. We work well together, but we have different areas of focus, and it's really working out. But the Command Center didn't always feel like part of the BHUSD fabric. And I think that's a really, really important difference. When things happen, whether it's a drill or an actual unscheduled event, which seemed like an emergency at the moment, and then it turns out generally everything's fine, but like we respond to these emergencies, there's, I think, a unifying ingredient that wasn't there before. So I think that's a really, really important, and I can get into specifics of how that works and why that works. The other thing is a unifying of the protocols and responses themselves. Each site is now responding much more uniformly, and I can get into what that looks like because there are changes that we made this year. But I think the development of this position, the bringing in of that safety program into the BHUSD fold, has had a really important unifying effect in terms of people knowing how to respond and who to respond to and what response they expect to get back. So I'm quite certain that has happened this year, and I'm really proud of the scheduled and unscheduled events that we've had this year. I think they frequently are showing incredible responsiveness at the site level, which was being trained before I got here. Got to give all those sites credit. They know what they're doing in an emergency. But in terms of like, what does it feel like and look like from the top down? What is that support that happens instantly? That is really, really remarkable. I think it's gotten better this year than it ever has been. And I would be fascinated to know if there's another schools doing it better. So what does that look like? And a lot of this is in the plans, but as you can see, it's like a 150-page document. And more on that later, and kind of like if you're a teacher, how do I glean the important stuff? And we're going to talk about that in a minute. But when this year started, I had 3 main goals. It was transparency, accountability, and proactivity, right? That's what we talked about when we were doing the strategic plan. And we've been thinking about it all year. And I think one of the things happened right away by bringing the command center and the safety leadership into the BHUSD, it's created more transparency. I think we see that in our principals advisory councils. I've been ready to help, and I've actually attended several of them in terms of the safe school plans, and we're in contact. We also have the Council for School Safety, which is a new thing. So we're bringing leaders from each of the 4 sites into one 12-person group, 14 if you include myself and Rebecca. And so what we're doing is we're meeting with them, we're talking to them about the capabilities that the district has and is trying to grow into district-wide. So they go back to their sites and they feel like, how can we use these things? So one of the things we've gotten to do is give some command center tours. I know that you've all had one here. Union leadership, we've brought them in recently. Our CSEA security guards have seen it. We don't want the command center to feel like a mystery, like a scary, unknown place. We want it to feel transparent and open, know where the cameras are, what they're here for, what we're trying to do. All of these things have been happening this year. I think that's made a big impact. The second thing I talked about, so that's transparency, and I think all of these things that we're talking about hopefully help bring a feeling of oneness, that it's not separated, that the command center, they're not some mysterious organization who's spying on people, but proactively trying to help staff, students, the community as much as we can. And I think that's happened frequently this year. Second thing, we're trying to be proactive. So we did emergency bins this year. That was a big goal. Those are all done. And we actually didn't just replace them. We tried to improve them, make them uniform, and make them agile. And I think we've done that. So that's exciting. We've got these emergency backpacks. These guys right here. So they're also uniform. They're all the same across the district. So if you change schools, you don't need to bring your backpack with you. You're going to go and you're going to find the other one. Rebecca and I are working on this project right now. We're excited about it. It is an emergency procedures guide. It's super simple. It has what do I do in a general medical emergency? What do I do in a lockdown, shelter in place, fire, earthquake, mandated reporting, right? These are kind of like the 6 big things that could come up. It could be a sub, who's coming in the room. These guys are available. Well, they're not yet. We're in the final draft right now, but they'll be printed. They'll go in every red backpack, which are in office spaces as well as classrooms. So I don't know what to do. Something just happened. I take a quick look, and we'll talk more about this in a minute, just real briefly about how it's making protocols and responses more uniform and also common language. So those will go in there, and each staff member will get one too. So they'll have one for their desk or someplace like that. And obviously our office managers will need extras for subs and things like that. So more on that later. So being proactive, emergency bins, backpacks, consistent response practice. Like, how do we respond? Is it the same every time? And we're going to get into that shortly with accountability. How do we know about our responses? So Titan is one major change this year, and something that we're really excited about. When we had the Council for School Safety, several of the parents were kind of wowed by Titan. And what's interesting is, we've been using Titan for every drill all year. And it is new in the sense that it's our first year using it. So we feel like we're only going to get better and better at it. But the Titan app is something that it's really remarkable in a couple ways. It's got this really user-friendly interface. There's icons for specific incidents that happen. So I have a medical emergency in my class. I go onto my app. I click medical emergency and it alerts district office personnel, appropriate ones, not every single one, the command center, and the site admin. So right away, there is this alert that goes out. Your phone makes a noise. And what's cool about it is you can have a two-way conversation with the person who made the alert. So let's say medical emergency, we send from the command center, we get them immediately. What's going on? Where are you? They tell us where they are, and their kid's having a seizure. We could tell that teacher, go ahead and call 911. but obviously we're in the command center, we'd just probably do it for them, but there's the response is immediate. So Titan's really great with that. Some people say we want a big red button to lock the school down. Titan is that big red button. You click lockdown, and it doesn't just go to the admin I told you, it goes to every single teacher and BHPD. And we've actually tried it out, and it works. BHPD gets it, the whole admin gets it, the teachers get it. So it's pretty exciting. So Titan is something that we're really being emphatic about, that it's available for you as a classroom teacher, it's available for you as an IA, it's available for you as an administrator who's having an incident. Just start a Titan chat, and now you're communicating with all the people you need to communicate with. So that's new, and that's really exciting. Watching the command center respond to incidents. We had an incident, this is just an example, where there was an unidentified person in a vehicle who was behaving in a way that one of our crossing guards thought was suspicious. So they contacted one of our traffic officers, who contacted the command center. It all happened very quickly. And what was great was we weren't sure what was going on. It sounded like this adult person was offering rides to kids, right? And it was an alarming thing to hear. Right away, a couple things happened. The command center heard about it. We informed NASTEC. And NASTEC, what's great is one of these partnerships that's happening is we've been working with NASTEC for many years. The city is now working with NASTEC. So there's a redundancy in this relationship that's really awesome on occasion, where we have a unique need at a site, and they will actually donate some of their patrols from NASTEC to go and support and harden a perimeter. So we actually sent some extra NASTEC patrols there. We hardened the perimeter. And then we did a Titan chat to all relevant admin. And what was interesting is we, of course, got a picture of the vehicle very quickly, and someone from another site said, wait, I recognize that car. And we're like, oh, that's interesting. And he said, I think it might be this family. And we found out that, in fact, that family had a student at one school, then another school, and we were able to use the cameras to find the car and see the interaction, call the parent, be like, hey, are we good? Everything was fine. But this is the kind of responsiveness that is really remarkable. It went from, we have this really concerning situation, to hardening the perimeter, getting NASTEC there, getting to the bottom of it, calling the parent, de-escalating the whole thing less than an hour. It was really awesome. And, of course, there's communication with PD in this process and all of that, but we were able to act fast on our own. So these are all things that I think are emblematic of the teamwork, the responsiveness, the coordinated communication. These are things that you can only do through practice, and you can only do if you're working with people that you trust, right? And I'm not to say necessarily there was distrust there, but they were separate, right? And now it's tight, and there are relationships there and expectations of how they respond. So you can't really capture that beautifully in the comprehensive safe school plan, but I've experienced it now many times, and our site leaders would say the same thing. They've experienced it. That escalated situations, there's this feeling of support, and then often the ability to de-escalate much faster than we could before. So these are just some of the things. I probably could go on and on, forgive me. But I hope that answers your question.
I just want to add one thing, because I thank you very much for that comprehensive answer to the question. Another difference that we've seen, not only with this communication, the pace of communication, and I hope that you've noticed this as well, my ability to be able to communicate with the board is because we've got new structures and supports in place that allow me to do that and update you real time. And that's why sometimes I know that gets annoying that I'm giving you a play-by-play, but I have that in place because of what we have in place. The other part I just wanted to add, what's changed and what's improved, is this connection and ability to not only the physical safety of what's happening with our students and staff, but also the emotional safety piece. Right. I mean, we have a meeting tomorrow at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning with some parents over a concern. And it's just been so beneficial having somebody who is an educator who also understands what it's like to be a building principal, and then also be able to reach out to parents, that we've utilized Mark in ways that we didn't necessarily anticipate in the beginning, but it's been a really value added to our organization to be able to have somebody who's the executive director of school safety meet with the superintendent and a group of parents. So, we're able to do that. We actually do that a lot, and it's everything from serious allegations to bullying allegations, because that all is incorporated into the safety program that we have, and that has significantly changed this year.
Well, I want to thank you, because I think, and to you, Michael, as well, when we restructured the security program, and when you stepped into that role, Mark and with Michael, we just have such a different security program now, and we can feel it. And in all the ways that you just described are all the differences that we have now that we didn't have before. And I would go so far as to say before what we had is we had assets, security assets in different places, but there was no integration or communication that really gave us that level of security in practice. So we had the pieces we were supposed to have, but we did not have leadership. We didn't have the communication in place and the practice in place to allow us to be able to respond in the way we are. And that has been through your leadership in all of these ways that you're talking about. And everybody that I talk to can feel the difference in the security program and feels that we are in a safer place. And we see the response and we hear about the response. And it feels really good that we're getting the value out of the assets that we've had in place, and that you've also improved those assets and improved the resources that we've had. So thank you both, and everybody that's been involved with our security program now, because it's really, it is shared responsibility, and it is a village, and it is our parent advisory groups and our principals, and it takes the entire school district and our city, but you've been able to bring that together and have everybody talk, so that now you can have a backpack with a fold out in it that really can tell you what to do, and it actually works instead of saying something on a piece of paper. So I really appreciate it.
And if I could say one last thing, I am also very grateful to my CSEA guards. We've known each other for years. In various, whether they all come to the football games, some of them are at the high school. They're doing a great job. They're each contributing in their own unique ways. And our schools just wouldn't be as safe without them. They know the kids, they care about them. I've got to spend a lot of time at the elementaries and the middle schools, a lot more than I ever have. And watching those interactions with our CSEA guards and those kids, you just can't say enough about it. I mean, the kids love them. They love the kids back, and we couldn't do it without them. Yeah. So
well, I agree. I think what you're saying is it's about communication and trust, and those were the two words that you used previously, and I think that's the foundation to our security.
Yeah. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions?
Just one. Your openness to collaboration is really admirable, and I commend you a lot on that. I have heard and seen you around school, whether I've been at the high school or the elementary schools or middle schools. It seems like you're always meeting with someone to understand what their concerns are, to implement it. And I think that humble approach is something that has been great for us, and we're stronger together because of all the input. So thank you for making sure our staff is safe, our admin is safe, our children is safe, and everyone goes home to their families. I really appreciate you.
Thank you. And we'll keep trying to get better.
Thank you.
Okay.
I have one little comment if I could make. Mine is brief. I want to just mention something about the subs and the information that's provided to them. I would like to make a suggestion. I don't know if you've given it any thought, but subs go to all the schools that maybe
Correct.
sometimes, and some of the things I think that when they are hired, that they be given a copy of that little folder that you showed me just now.
Absolutely.
I think that would be good. And also that when a sub checks into school, they're usually given the teacher's subfolder. I would like to see that in the subfolder, because I think that would be very helpful.
That is part of the plan for sure. Hopefully they bring it back, but we'll have extras just in case. And the other thing you may or may not know is our subs actually, even if they don't have the Titan app, when they register at the office, they can sign up with Titan using a QR code for a 24-hour period. So they'll get all the emergency alerts that everyone else gets at that site. So it's nice.
Thank you.
Okay. I have never felt better in my 10 years or so of being a parent at this district than I do right now. And I know that you have a very tough job, but I am so happy that we have, in fact, an executive director of school safety and security. And I love all the layers that are described. We really are a microcosm of different layers of safety for our kids, whether it's the fire department and the police that you're communicating with, the site leaders, the parents, and of course our CSA guards, and we're very lucky. I think that what would be great ultimately is if we could have some of the students be ambassadors to this. And I know that safety is a serious matter, but to the extent that we can enlist their help and their buy-in, because they definitely have a different viewpoint, and it's something that's on their mind. So it would really be great if there was like a kid panel or adolescent panel or something.
That's an awesome idea. And, our principals advisory councils do have students, at least at the high school level. I don't recall them at the middle school. But anyway, I love that idea. I think it's a great one, for sure.
Thank you very much,
Thank you.
Mr. Mead and Dr. Breggy. And with that, I'll call the question. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Moving on to consent calendar item D.
I will move for the approval of the item number D, our agreement with SVA Architects for the architectural services related to the Beverly Hills High School Building A restroom renovation.
I'll second.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Margus and Dr. Stern. Somebody had a question?
Yeah. Hi, Mr. Guzman. How are you, sir?
Good. How are you?
Thank you. I just think that this is going to have perhaps a significant impact on the children and their use of the restrooms in Building A for a little bit of time. And so maybe it's good for everyone to know what's happening, what's the resolution, and how long will it take, please?
Sure. So firstly, good evening to our board president, board members, community. Yes, so this is really for those restrooms that are currently they have water. They had some pretty severe water damage in the third floor of Building A. So those restrooms are already so what happened was, because they were, let me make sure I get the right term. They were cast iron sewer lines. What ended up happening is they basically failed and flooded those two restrooms. So those two restrooms right now are pretty much completely like out of commission. And so essentially they've been that way. And what we are trying to do, and I'm thankful to Ken Haas and our maintenance and operations team so they actually were able to use our insurance through Keenan. And so that's going to be all covered through our insurance. It won't be at the expense of the district. And that's I'm thankful to our team for making sure that happened. But the upside of it is that we're going to have some newly renovated restrooms. The downside is, as you mentioned, those are not available at this point in time.
I was just curious, do you know or have any estimate of time? Because we haven't even gotten the SVA or the architects to do this yet. What are you looking at in terms of time in getting this done?
Yes. So there's a couple things going on. One of them is we do have to have a contract with the school district. That's why we're bringing it to the board. But it won't be at a cost to the district. It'll be directly paid by our insurance. But we have to have a contract in place in order for them to be in our facilities. So they have to design everything. That's going to take it could take anywhere from we're looking at like about 6 months to a year for just everything to be designed. But what ended up happening was there were some black iron wall studs that were found that were exposed during the demolition and the remediation process. And because those exist, essentially in the past they were allowable. But now that time has passed, these types of framing materials are no longer used today and don't offer the structural integrity that's required of today's design. And so we have to get all of that redone. So we're looking at, we're trying to move as quickly as we can. We have to go through the DSA process. And so we're looking at potentially over a year for this to be completed. But it's because of that. Or else, if we wouldn't have exposed that, it perhaps would have been a lot faster. But now that we have that, and that's become a structural issue, we have to make sure that we remediate that appropriately and we take it through DSA and do everything we need to do. So, and we're doing our best. This is something that, because the buildings are a little older and we have this type of pipes, throughout the building. And so that's why we had to remediate that. So we're always on the lookout for any leaks or anything like that throughout our facilities to make sure we nip those quickly.
Any other comments on this one? Okay, we'll go to vote. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much, Mr. Guzman.
Thank you.
And that will wrap it up for the consent calendar. And listen, we've pushed my latest episode of Now No One Knows long enough. So giving K-Bev a second to get this thing loaded. I'm supposed to stretch it out, right? Like that. This newest one is I met with the amazing STEM teacher Alexis Crane over at Beverly Vista Middle School, and I am going to the elementary schools this month. I've lined a couple up so far, so start looking. We are going to be going down into the lower grades. It was an amazing experience meeting with Miss Crane. I got to her just in the nick of time. I don't know if the other crane, the little crane, is out there, but not yet. But little crane. But you know, and some of us, I know a lot of the board went to the JPL with her earlier this month, and it was such an amazing time that we had. But is K-Bev ready? Should I shut my yap? Once there we go. Enjoy. Hi, welcome to Now Noah Knows. I'm here today with our district rocket scientist, Alexis Crane.
Everyone thinks rocket science, but I actually do astrobiology. My graduate degree is in molecular genetics, and the district has paid for me to take classes all over this nation in different colleges using a curriculum called Project Lead the Way.
Tell us one thing about yourself that nobody really knows.
If I win the lottery, I'm going to go back for 1 million degrees. I'm going to go back for a planetary geology degree, sustainability. I love learning.
The more you speak, the dumber I get. Thank you for that.
It's so fun.
So, what am I going to learn today?
So today we're going to build a Morse code machine. So we're actually going to learn about electromagnets. How would you get a message to the King of England? That's usually my example. You had a boat.
Yo, King.
You hoped that boat didn't sink, and you hoped somebody physically delivered a letter to the king. There is a wire that would connect the East Coast all the way to the UK, and there are still transatlantic cables and wires. But at the end of the day, most adults don't understand that when you plug your phone into the wall, you're connected to a much larger piece of engineering infrastructure. All right, are you ready to build?
Oh, yeah.
So here is your piece of wood.
Okay.
All right, next, you need 6 feet of magnetic wire. And you're gonna wrap that.
This is surprisingly heavy.
Yeah. Okay, so now you need this entire length of wire on this 20
Okay.
nail. Now that you have that, you need to hammer that into hole number 4. Next up is your paper clip. I'm gonna take the liberty of doing this piece for you.
Apparently, I'm not licensed to handle paper clips.
So this is going to go in this hole here. This is going to be your hammer.
Okay.
So when this becomes an electromagnet, this will become attracted to it and it will ding it.
Okay.
So you need to sand off the red insulating paint on that.
On this piece?
On both ends.
Of this one or?
You're going to end up doing it to all of them.
Okay.
So when I troubleshoot this with students, if it doesn't work, it's usually because they didn't sand enough. Yeah. So if you see any red on there, then that is still insulating. You're gonna wanna screw this in so that the paper clip attaches. This is gonna be your on and off switch. That's how we're gonna open and close the circuit.
Okay. So does the wire just need to be around this?
I usually screw this down and then I add the wire. So screw down a little bit and then I just wrap the wire around it. Sorry. We wrap that underneath there so that it's touching nicely.
Okay. And then this gets screwed down?
Yep. Small loop into 2 unconnected wires. This should be perfect. Add a dot of hot glue.
Ooh. And you set that just so it's
just above it so that when this becomes a magnet, this is going to hit it.
It's
and we're going
above
to
it,
hear,
okay.
yeah. Go ahead and close the circuit. Yeah, there you go. You did it. You made a Morse code machine.
Wow.
So usually we rubber band this so they don't have to physically hold a battery. And there's a solid day at school where they're texting each other with this. And that's how we make electrical engineering hands-on.
Thank you so much
You're
for
welcome.
showing me this, Alexis. This is terrific. And now, Noah knows.
No, did you bring your Morse code machine?
I didn't. It was on loan in the classroom, and I'm okay to pick it up, but I didn't get it. What's amazing is that the kids are doing this. That's what the coolest part is that this is all stuff that I was doing, realizing, I have a contracting background, so it's not alien to me, but they talked earlier about trades and electrical engineering and stuff like that, and this class allows the students to start down that path and understand how the electrical grid works and how to create the electromagnet and use electricity. So it was a great experience. And tomorrow I'm going into the Medical Science Academy. So that'll be coming up. Thank you very much, everyone. That's available on YouTube if you want to build one yourself.
What if you know too much? I'm worried you're going to know too much.
That'll never happen. Never happen. I'm starting at a huge handicap here. Okay, Dr. Bricky.
Thank you. I don't know if I can compete with Now No One Knows, but I'm happy to provide you with a little update here. And shout out to Alex, who is at home not feeling well. We're thinking about you, and you're in a good place on another cold evening. Thank you, K-Bev. So I'd like to just start off just by thanking our staff for the professional development day that we had a week ago. It was just such a great opportunity for our staff to be able to shine and share presentations in the morning with one another. It was just such high attendance that we've ever seen for a professional development day, but not only high attendance, but also high engagement as well. It was a really great day for staff to see each other, but also an opportunity for staff to share expertise in certain areas in the morning, but then also break out then and spend some time with our staff working in grade levels and also in department meetings as well. A really exciting event that just occurred at BVMS was an opportunity to open up and do a ribbon cutting for the brand new fitness center. And I'm really appreciative of Dr. Scott and Mr. Ellis for their vision and carrying out a lot of things that we talked about many years ago when we were talking about reconfiguration. And these are the things that we explained to the community that would come after we made the big reconfiguration move, and those things are happening, and we're getting that support by our Board of Education, but also our PTAs and the funding that they've provided us to have top-notch equipment that would rival any high school in the area. So we're very excited about that. The evening went on to an open house. It was so great to see staff out and about. We had performances, Best in Show that was happening, and it was very cold and somewhat still raining, and our students just carrying on like champs throughout the entire night. Some other great things, some nice awards that are happening, also at BVMS with second place in our Science Olympiad competition. You've heard a lot about these types of competitions, STEM competitions, and we're trying to get as many people involved as possible. But a second place win in this very tough category in a tough area. Our kids did really well, and we're very proud of their second place win. Also, kind of in that same area is just with our BHHS academic decathlon team. This is a highly competitive team. It tests knowledge and skills. Students are able to compete against schools at other districts, and they're really challenged to do a lot of the analytical type skills and reasoning skills. And so this really brings out what we're really looking for, what's happening in the classroom, and our kids are able to demonstrate that at a very high level. I put this in here because I was talking just earlier about professional development, and oftentimes, we don't really get out that often and experience some of these conferences, and that goes especially true for some of our behind-the-scenes employees, our business department, in construction, and you can see a picture here of Will and Sean Fonder. Let's see, Ken is there, and also Amin, and we just don't have that opportunity very often, and so I was really proud that they were representing our school district at the CASH conference, and it's just such a great opportunity for contacts and networking, but also for the leadership that it takes for these positions too. And there's about 2,000 people that went, and it's just great that we were highly represented at this conference. Something that you may have heard earlier, and we seem to talk about this every 3 years, but our Joint Powers Agreement, and this is been in existence for decades, so back to 1978. And it's a relationship that we have with the city of Beverly Hills, and the agreement that we have that provides the community with space for programs in our schools. And that is why this partnership is so important to both the city and the school district, because we are in our schools using our facilities from 7 in the morning, sometimes till 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. And it's just every enrichment program to athletics. And we are in the process now of meeting with city officials to negotiate this next agreement. And we've already had that kickoff. So this is just a picture of our first meeting that we had, and just want to thank the board and our city council for this kickoff. And I am looking forward to a very progressive and hopefully quick agreement in the future. But there's a lot of work involved, and want to thank everybody that has been involved so far. You've heard a little bit about Black History Month just this evening, but one of the events that I went to at BVMS yesterday, and you heard Victoria speak about this a little bit earlier, just this opportunity of alumni coming back. And it was just, to hear some stories, and after being in the district for so long, I thought I had heard a lot of the stories and a lot of the history in the district, and I didn't. And so yesterday was so captivating to hear these 4 men and their stories, Michael Suter, Michael Higginbotham, David Gross, and Alan Nirab, that you could hear a pin drop in this auditorium. These kids were captivated in hearing these stories about what was happening here in Beverly Hills Unified School District, 30, 40 years ago, and they were just captivated to hear these stories. It was such a great event, and a special thank you to Mr. Waters, who also helped moderate the event. One of the most impactful events I've been to all year. Just a quick congratulations. We have some new CBOC members, our Construction Bond Oversight Group. This is a very hard-working group of people that have a pretty tough job. And so we have our chair is Les Bronte, vice chair Nathan Kruger. This is an opportunity for our community to get involved, and they spend some time looking at expenditure reports. They're looking at how bonds are paid, and how we're using the bonds to pay for these expenditures. And this is a committee where we have some new members, and so I do want to say congratulations to Vlad France, Jasmine Yadgari, and Raymond Zolikin. And again, it's a lot of hard work. It's a lot to look at. We have a lot of projects that are going on in the district, and we're just really glad that we have 3 new members that have already, they're very engaged, and they've already hit the ground running, and so they have just been sworn in. As you know, we have our SAT school day that's coming up. Again, this is a very unique opportunity that we have in our school district, that we offer the SAT to all of our students. This is our 3rd year running, and so we've got this down. And we have our attendance is higher, and our sophomores and our juniors that are attending on March 1st are very appreciative that we offer this setting in our own schools where our kids are comfortable. And so very thankful to the board for the ongoing funding so that we can provide this opportunity for our students in our school district in classrooms where they're most comfortable. So we've talked a lot recently about some new choices, in Hebrew, for example, was one of those choices that we talked about adding. And I just want to share with you that we do have some really good news. Everything that we do is always on student interest. And so, that either, that's what makes programs successful, or how we're able to offer the things that we are. And so we have already shared information with our families for the after-school Hebrew language enrichment course. This is open to all 7th and 8th graders. That meets twice a week. It does meet at the high school. We have over 41 students that have signed up for that in just such a short time, and we're very happy about that. We do have an extended learning opportunities grant that we are using, so that is not any additional funding, but it's really rewarding to know that we've offered something after school on Thursdays and Tuesdays and Thursdays, and that we have 41 students that are interested. The conversation that we just had last board meeting was about adding Hebrew to our middle school, and I want to share with you, we've just started work on this initiative, and again, as I mentioned, it's really important to look at the interest that's involved, and so we've done that. We have about 143 people have answered a survey so far, so that would be our current 5th and 6th graders that we have sent out a quick survey. We've heard back from I think it's 143 have answered the survey, so we still have several more to get survey results back. But we have 85 yeses already. So that's 5th and 6th graders that are aware that this would take an elective place. But we have 85 that are interested. So we're excited about that number. That could be 3 sections of Hebrew. And so we're still waiting for some additional data, but since that was a conversation that we just had at our last board meeting, I wanted to update you and let you know that that there is some interest in Hebrew in our middle schools, and it really makes sense with the pathway that we've developed all the way through high school. And just quickly, this is just another great evening that we have where parents can come out and parents can really meet with teachers and see what is happening in our classrooms with our math strategies. You know, we've had, as you know, a lot of professional development that's happening in mathematics, and so parents can come out and they can have an opportunity to see what's working and happening in the classroom, and so that is happening on March 9th. A couple of parent education opportunities. At Horace Mann, we have a Bullying 101 that's presented by some staff and leadership at Horace Mann. And then also at the middle school in a parent university opportunity that we have another speaker coming in. We know that this is an area that is of high concentration for us. And this is not an area that we're ready to move on. We've got a lot of work to do, and it's in the education piece. And so the speakers that we have coming in for students and also for our parents, I just highly encourage all our parents to attend these types of opportunities because there is great value. Many times we have a virtual option for parents that can make this a little bit more efficient. But the more attendance we get, the higher value that we get, that people are understanding the programs, some of the challenges that we have in our schools. And we're finding that a lot of our data is that the occurrences of bullying are happening through cell phones and through chat rooms. And it's really happening a lot in the evening and not during the day. So it's kind of a wake-up call to parents that a lot of this is happening at night and on weekends, but then is brought and starts again in our schools. And so we believe we're going to keep bringing these opportunities for our parents and for our students and staff. So it's fun to be talking about graduation already and summer school, and BHEF does a great job of their offerings, which are what's currently offered for now is our middle school opportunities, but also for our elementary schools as well. And so we've been pushing out that communication so that we can provide these opportunities for the summer. Sign up is happening now. You can also go to our website and click on BHEF for more information, but we're really proud to be able to partner with BHEF in this type of programming. Again, looking already and planning for our next school year are the important dates that we have for not only new students, but our continuing students too. And, we're going to be pushing this information out. This is a really critical time for us as we look at staffing. So it's really important that even students that are continuing in our school district return those forms to us to let us know that they're continuing, because a lot of this is driven, as I mentioned, on student interest and enrollment. And so all of that data is used, and our master schedules for each of our schools, they're always new each year based on this type of data. So the more information we get back, the more accurate we are, the better type of programming that we can offer. And lastly, you may have seen something that we pushed out a little bit earlier, and I want to share with you that this was a really kind of fun initiative. So this was started with a student, Alara Gatsku. She's a 4th grade student at Hawthorne, and she, a few weeks ago, there was an assembly at Hawthorne, and she had the opportunity to speak, and she talked about the earthquake in Turkey and about how families the needs that families have in Turkey and Syria. And it was just such a great presentation that she made in front of her class. She passed out her own flyers. She really engaged the entire community to get behind her. And it really morphed into this new kind of campaign to just bring awareness. And this is all stemming from a 4th grade student who said, look, I know that everybody is doing what they can, but I just want to create the awareness that there's another thing happening in another part of the country, and just to create the awareness so that we all were thinking about the people in Turkey and Syria, and you know, they continue to have aftershocks after the big earthquake. And so she had offered to get involved, and she had challenged everybody to just write yes on their palms. And so we sent out something earlier. I think we've had over 80 staff members just return back, getting involved in the spirit, getting involved in the awareness. And it's kind of wearing off after washing my hands several times today. But it's an exciting way to just create that awareness, because sometimes that's all you need, is to bring the awareness of what's happening in, you know, halfway around the world. So, you know, we ask that people join in on this campaign, and we're very excited about this initiative that all started with a 4th grade student in our school district, and it's really catching on, and we're super proud. And that is it.
Thank you very much, Dr. Briggy. Chock full of information, as usual. Are there any comments or questions? There need not be, but great. Thank you very much. We will move on. Yeah,
Well,
who has ink left on their hands?
I have a comment.
Yeah, I have a
yes. I washed mine off, but I do have a comment. Yesterday at the Health and Safety Commission, my report, I made a report about the BHEF, and I just want to clarify something about summer school. They asked if it was, there was a fee for it. I wasn't sure. I thought it was free because BHF, but there is a nominal charge for the classes during the summer school, and I just wanted to make that clear to the public. And so that was my only comment to make.
Thank you, Mrs. Marcus. Okay, moving on to personnel services. Can I get a motion?
I'll make a motion for a memorandum of understanding between Beverly Hills Unified School District and Beverly Hills Education Association for extra pay for extracurricular assignments.
I'll second it.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Wells and Mrs. Marcus. Any questions? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Moving on to item B.
I will make a motion to approve the resolution number 2022-2023-16, the resolution regarding release and reassignment of certificated administrative employees.
I'll second.
Thank you very much. Any comments or questions? Okay, go to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you very much. Moving on to planning and facilities. A.
I'll move for the approval of the rental agreement with Sterling Venue Ventures for the Saban Theater for the Beverly Hills High School Spring Musical.
I will second that. Thank you very much, Mrs. Marcus. Any questions on that one? Okay.
Well, I would like to make a comment before. I will hope that everybody will support it and come and watch it and raise the money to cover the cost of the fee to use the Saban. So I encourage everybody, please come to the show.
I think come to the show regardless of the fee. So I don't know. I don't know if Raphael, those fees going back? No, they're not. Okay.
They would be like
they're going to support something. but-
Taylor Swift prices to
Right.
be able to pay for that. But it's
Hey,
worth it.
She doesn't appreciate that.
No way.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, I would
especially
add
the milk duds.
I would add one comment that we did have questions and comments with the board regarding this, and there was some concern about the cost of renting the theater, and that in the future they're going to be. We were already contracted for this, so my understanding was so in the future they were going to be looking at being able to do that for less.
Yeah, and it was also my understanding, I think it was a multi-year deal when they did it
Right,
up
so
front,
we were
right?
already
Because
contracted.
they kind of were gauging when the high school auditorium would be open compared to the spring musical, so.
Right.
Yes, that's the case. So we will be looking at that in the future, and essentially, I think there is like kind of a premium for Saturdays, and that's one of the reasons why the amount is a little larger, because it includes Saturday. So if it didn't include Saturday, then it would be lower. But that kind of makes sense, right? I mean, with almost anything, if you book it on a Saturday, it's going to be much more expensive.
Yes. Correct.
Right, it makes sense for me, I would just say it makes sense for more private institutions, but for a public school, it doesn't make as much sense.
Yes.
Right.
So,
all right.
Anyway, here
But
we are.
We're going to try and get that lower going forward in the future.
Yes, we noted that with our department, and that's what we're going to be doing.
And
Thank you.
I do want to appreciate the theater classes and the theater workshop that has to use different facilities all year to put on their performances, whether it's one of our elementary schools. I know they did their fall play at Horseman. They keep moving around to make the best use of the district facilities, and therefore that's why we should support them.
Yes.
The good news is in 2026, this will be an old story.
Great.
Thank you.
Great. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Motion carries 5-0. Moving on to professional and official business. We have a discussion regarding FLES. Haven't heard those words in this district in a very long time. Dr. Bray, you want to kick this off?
So, yeah, Mr. Seaman could not be here this evening. I can share with you that we're kind of late in the planning for the additions to foreign language. My recommendation would be to form a design committee to start looking to see what the possibilities are. We offer a really full schedule at the elementary, which is unlike most elementaries I've ever seen. And so, offering 6 different specialist areas, this would bring just another one. And so something is going to have to go. So I want to make sure that we take some time looking at the implications of such decision, because it's, there are a lot of things that we have to take into consideration. As you know, there's only so much instructional time throughout the day. And so we have this robust schedule. So we would need to look at not only the interest level, but also the actual schedule itself. Because one thing, if you add something else, we're going to be doing a lot of moving.
Okay, I'll hear from my colleagues on this. Thank you, Dr. Breggy. Mrs. Wells?
I fully appreciate what you're saying, Michael, and I look forward to hearing the thinking that comes back from you and your staff with regard to what that recommendation would be, and also reaching out to the community to gauge interest. So thank you.
You bet.
Mrs. Manicherry, do you have anything on this? No. Mrs. Marcus?
I just wanted to offer a thought that I just thought of. I know that you can only teach so many things during the school day, and maybe there may be an opportunity for bringing in this as an after-school program that might be something you could look into, and those who would like to avail themselves of it could do it. So it's just a thought.
I think it's a great thought. I mean, I think that what has happened with the after-school program, just getting 41 students already that are willing to have a Thursday and Friday afternoon from 3:30 to 5 o'clock at the high school. That shows that there's an interest level and that people are willing to get creative with their own schedules. So I think we need to kind of look at it all. We have a lot of great programs, and just looking to see where we can place these opportunities is really important, and not to make a decision that's so quick that would disrupt a schedule that we've spent years and years building.
Thank you. Anything else, Mrs. Marcus?
No, that's all.
Thank you, Dr. Stern.
So I have a lot to say on this matter. I work in schools, and I'm aware of a lot of different districts in Los Angeles. And I will say that when our charge is for academic excellence, I really think that it is in our best interest to, and I know it's complex, but to look at really making some progress towards having a panel or having a committee that looks at getting at least 1 to 3 world languages in the elementary school. Now, there's a whole continuum of how involved we can be with that. I mean, there's bilingual, there's dual immersion programs. One school district I'm aware of has one elementary school that is dedicated to just being a dual immersion school. So the children have, I think it's like a 90-10 setup where 90% is in the target language that they're learning and 10% is in English. But the thinking is that we know that there's a lot of benefits to the brain, to school involvement, and to school commitment for those who enroll in world languages early on in TK and kindergarten. And I know that now in the middle school we have the French and Spanish. We see a lot of interest in the Hebrew, but for a foreign language program to really be robust, then you really ideally want it to be carried through the whole schooling career. And I think that, again, with the charge of educational excellence, the idea of really looking at having that start and percolate in the earliest grades when their brains are most ripe for second language acquisition seems like something we really should do. Now, I know it's not easy, and I do think that it does need some sort of a committee or some sort of panel to evaluate how it can be done. But to me, it seems to be just part and parcel of an excellent education is to have involvement in language in elementary school. But I am aware that I think that our elementary schools are very rich in their offerings. I mean, we have makerspace, we have social studies, we have science lab, we have things that we're very fortunate to have that a lot of elementary school kids in this state do not experience. Right. And then also, I'm aware that because of the No Child Left Behind Act, we are charged with really making sure that our earliest grades are very good and show solid understanding in assessment of math and English language arts. So again, if they're pulled out of instructional time for the math and the English, for all of these things, then it's going to reflect badly on us as a school when we come to assessment or start testing. So I know these are all things that have to be juggled, but I feel very strongly that for us to have a robust world language program in the earliest years really is a no-brainer, I think, for going to the next level for us. Thank you.
Thank you, colleagues. I agree with that, Dr. Stern, about the language acquisition at a very young age. In fact, actually, before they even get to school is when a lot of children learn how to speak, right? So I once heard that the age is 2 to 5 or something, or one of the most...
0 to 3 is the primary
right.
language acquisition.
Right.
Up to 5 is when the brain...
And the younger you are, the easier it is to acquire the language. That is true. But you touched upon something, and I think we get excited and we hear from our wonderfully involved community members about why don't we do this, why don't we do that, and I think we need to caution ourselves about do we want to be the fine restaurant with a simple one-page menu, or do we want to be like a Denny's with a 30-page menu of not the best quality of food per se? And I think we somehow have to find the balance, especially in these conversations we're having as of late, because we used to not have conversations about having STEM and having makerspace, and those things didn't exist. Now they do, and now they're in our schools. We want music and art for our elementary students, right? We want to keep that. They need to have P. That's a requirement. We want to give them everything that we can give them, but we have to make sure we're not taking away the quality of an education in doing so. So I think if this is looked into, I don't want our schools to be a buffet.
Mhm.
You know, I want them to be a fine restaurant, and I want them that everything we do has to be the highest quality. I don't want to sacrifice that just to add one more thing to the menu. And we have to put reading and writing and mathematics first. You know, we have to do that. Now, can we frame those things within these other electives? Yeah, you can. You can. With cross-curricular teaching, you certainly can. Project-based learning, you can absolutely do that. And that can start at younger ages. So you certainly can do literature in a foreign language. That's not impossible. But we have to make sure that we have the bandwidth to be able not to sacrifice the quality of that basic education that Dr. Stern was referring to, while still trying to maintain this. So if we do look at this, and we do spend the time looking at this, I would hope that that's seriously looked at, because in the end, I understand that we're pulling our kids out of these K-5 classes for a lot of these special activities, and we can't pull them out any more than we're already pulling them out. So like you said, something's got to give if that happens, and nobody's going to want to be the one to sacrifice like their particular speciality.
Right.
So, and if any of these things that I mentioned goes on the chopping block, we're going to hear about that too.
We will.
So we have to then make a decision before we roll things out that in a different situation it may be better, but in this situation, in this school district, you know, these are the decisions we're making for our students.
Yeah, we tend to agree. So I appreciate getting that feedback. We want to make sure this is quite an investment to make for the district, and this is not something you pilot. You know, so this is, you know, if you're going to be all in, we want to make sure that we are, and that you know, that we have a long-term plan in place, because it's tough to get staffing for these courses, and so we want to make sure that we do it right the first time. And so by giving us a little bit of time and not rushing something for next year, because we're certainly not ready, there wouldn't be a high level of fidelity with our implementation if we tried to do it too quick.
Right, but I do appreciate Mrs. Marcus's idea about the after school, because that may be able to kind of test the waters.
I think it's a great idea.
Work in a different way.
Yeah.
That also will prevent them from having to make a choice of, you know, with the time within the school day, so that, you know, there's still the programs that the kids that are really enjoying and learning from, and they are learning from them. This will just not take away from that at all.
Right. Right, and of course, Mr. Guzman can always come and tell us you can't afford it, and that ends that.
Just one thing to add. I think a lot of our parents are craving after-school programming, more of it, and so this could be a pretty good solution for those needs as well. You know, to support our families. We've got a lot of dual working families who cannot get to campus, and a lot of the families are also asking for more language, so it really hits a lot.
Gives us an opportunity to work with the city too, on more of offering those classes.
It does.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much, colleagues, for that conversation. Before we go into our next issue, we have a comment from Nushin Mashkadi. Do you want to? Now, Nushin, I have two cards for you. Do you want to just? Is it all one issue?
Yeah, relates to the same, except you know, I was going to talk in general about one of them and about the policy that you have on the other item. So
Okay.
if you want me
Well,
to
this is the
combine
last.
them-
This is the last item on the agenda.
Okay, so if you want me to
could just,
combine them, as long as you give me enough time.
I will give you enough time. Go ahead.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Well, on the first item, you know, before we go to the policy, you had the speakers today talking about the Black History Month, and comments related about the Holocaust and all the anti-Semitic involvement that is coming up. It all goes back to how we look at each other as human beings, and also what was mentioned about being a good Christian, you know, in some of the comments coming up earlier. I'm saying what we can do as becoming a better human. We are, whatever our religion is, whatever our beliefs are, you know, what we have to believe in is being a good human. So what I had suggested, what I had brought in front of you in January, and it has taken several weeks to get today, and just starting talking about that, realizing that you may not have a policy about something that will bring alert to and awareness to the community, revolving what is the current event today, what's happening throughout the world. You look at the unforeseen and unfortunate things that has happened revolving Jewish community, which is anti-Semitism, and also what's happening on the other side of the world with the humanity and the executions and everything happens, and the women movement that has started several months ago, that has brought attention throughout the world. And I'm hoping our community here will pay some attention, and I look at you as the educational institute to bring that awareness to our students, so that they can take it to their homes and educate their parents if they're not educated about it. It's funny that just last night I was somewhere and they said, talking about the what's happening in Iran, I really didn't know until you talked about it, and when I looked it up, and I noticed, oh my God, what's happening. So a lot of us, we get busy with our day-to-day life, and we forget that a lot more is happening throughout the world, and not necessarily good things. And in order to stop those not so good things, is all of our responsibilities to step up. What happened in 1933 Holocaust, if people had stood up, could have prevented it. And it took this many years we openly talk about it. We openly grieve about it and find out that what we can do, and we still haven't been able to stop it, because you can see there are ignorance that are, coming up with more unpleasant things doing to other human beings. So what can we do to become good human? Is up to us to teach in the classrooms, to educate our teachers to be able to take it to the classrooms. You have a great program as far as mentors, having peers teaching other kids. I'm hoping even through teaching math, we can learn from those kids. What have you done, and have you been able to connect to those students that you're teaching? Have you been able to connect to them? Maybe their connection may have been easier than the teacher was able to. So let's learn from those students. Let's not leave those peer programs. I know I jump from one thing to another, but they're all connected. It all comes to down to the education and what we can do. So going forward, I know, as I have talked about in the past, what happened, Holocaust 1933, we still see residuals of it happening here. And if people had stood up then, could have prevented it. And what's happening today, started 2022 or maybe 44 years ago, that's happening in Iran. We will see residuals of it, because a lot of those anti-Semitism that is happening here is effect of what's happening in Iran. And so let's not fool ourselves that it's on the other side. We're busy today in Beverly Hills. Who cares? We should care, because it does affect us all. In March, March 8th is around the corner, International Women's Day, and what are we doing? And I was hoping what I suggested, what I brought up to you in January as one of the murals that could be on one of our walls, to bring attention to some of the women movement that is happening throughout the world. I know that you're talking about you have to have a policy, but whether you have a policy, whether you grandfather this in or not, anything that comes in front of you as a board, you will vote on it. I mean, yes, it's good to have a policy, but even having a policy doesn't mean everything that comes in front of you, you will vote on it and you grant it. So I'm hoping you can, whether you are going to move forward with policy, I hope that you can put it on fast forward, go as fast as possible, because what's happening is current event now, and it has to relate to what's happening. So if a mural is going up for a current event, let's try to keep it as a current event. We talked about it back in January, and now we're almost March. Tomorrow is start of March, and we're just talking about a policy. What happened all these weeks in between? I know there are other issues on hand, but let's try to give human rights some value, and some of these things that are related hopefully can go a little faster. In January 1936, I'm talking about these things so it just brings awareness. In January 1936, women in Iran were granted freedom to be able to wear what they want, be able to be active in society, be able to work in different offices. And fast forward in 1979, all of those rights were taken away from them. So what we have today doesn't mean it will remain with us. It will only remain with us if we all do our part to keep it and not take it for granted. A lot we have that we take for granted. And when you look at the other side of the world and you see they don't have it, then you will realize what you have. And I just pray to God that we as adults will know and we can teach our children. And I look to you, educators, to try to bring it to the children. So if the adults have failed to learn, maybe their students or their children will teach them. So the policy that you have coming up in your agenda, the AR 1330.1 about banners and murals, I know you're just discussing it. I know it's not up for vote. It's not an action item. But I hope it's not going to take another several weeks for it to come back as an action item. And I hope what we discussed in January could be put on fast pace so at least we can do something about it. What I talked about then, that we can make this into an educational module, that doesn't mean that mural can be part of what you're looking at. But I'm saying that we can make something like that. If it helps for the students to learn, we can bring artists like that to bring the excitement out of those kids and bring attention to something that is so crucial, which is the human rights, women's rights. So whatever it takes, if it takes visual art to do that, let's do that. And Farhang committed themselves to bring the artists back to the students so that they can learn from them and bring programs like that back to the school so that kids can learn from. But my main concern is what we can do as far as moving the mural that we talked about on a fast pace so we can make it happen. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, colleagues, with that, we'll go right into our discussion about the policy AR 1330.1 on banners and murals. Mrs. Wells, would you like to begin?
Well, actually, I'd like to hear from Michael since he's proposed it looks like he has a draft for us.
Yes. So what I have for you is just so that you're able to see on this page is I have our what we've done with other policies. So I have our current policy on the first page, which is the one that's severely outdated. And then you'll see just kind of a draft on the other side, which was recommended that to come back with some language like we have with the other policies that we've updated and changed. So this is just, we've spent some time over the last week or so to really look at some of the other policies that are working for schools. And you can see on here, it's not just murals. We added some of the banners because that's been a topic in the community. But you can see that we're transparent about what we've removed and then what we've added in red. And I realize that you're just seeing this tonight, but this is something that we've been working on for a while to provide you because there just hasn't been a lot of guidance from the California School Board Association. So this is just us with meetings with our counterparts and looking at some other policy that's already in place. So you can see that we've broken this down to external banners and signs and also some of the marketing promotion. And on the following page, you'll see where we're talking about external murals, which is different from what's happening inside our schools in courtyards and in areas where students are driving in. So we've kind of separated those out a little bit. But I know you'll need some time to review this, but we're really open to getting some input. But we're kind of pioneers in this area because there's not a lot of policy. It's kind of scattered. So we've kind of tried to put this together for you.
I have a question, just glancing at just the beginning, because we didn't have this until now, so we haven't had a chance to read it. But just looking at just starting with the banners and signs and removing the designated location area for the banners. I'm curious why you removed that. Like, why wouldn't you want to look at each of the sites and determine where is the best place for banners to be placed in terms of the overall aesthetic of the school?
I think that when in our discussions, we were just talking about, sometimes it's a different event, sometimes it's a different activity, and so it might need to be closer to the activities. For example, if it's an AYSO banner, you want to make sure that that's near where families are walking in with students in our soccer area. So we didn't want to limit ourselves, and I think that some people, from what we've heard in the community, is that some people don't like to be that it is in one spot all the time, that there's something there when they walk outside their house.
Right. I guess because it's not a permanent, it doesn't stay there permanently. It can make sense that you don't have to designate the site. But I do think that they should ensure that the site is, unless it's very, very temporary, that it's aesthetically pleasing in terms of how many banners and where they are. Just to, you don't want to walk around the school and just have banners, all shapes and sizes, all over the exterior of the school. I think there should be some sort of consideration about what it makes the school look like from the outside.
I'm gonna let my colleagues go, but I just want to say, Mary, I agree with that. I made a note, so I'll circle back to that.
I wanted to respond to Nushin first. Thank you so much for joining us again. And I know this is important to you, and it's important to a lot of folks, especially on a week where we're learning in the news that girls are being poisoned in schools in Iran. And so I take to heart very much what you're trying to say, that there is a common thread from here to there. And we are responsible for, the rest of the world as well as our own children. I think that we as a board are trying to do, I completely respect and appreciate your sense of urgency, especially given the International Women's Day is coming up. And I do want to apologize to you because I didn't grasp that was your desired date when you last came to speak with us. And so, that's an inadvertent mistake on our part. And it doesn't mean that we don't want to review this and we don't want to do something about it. It just means that we didn't realize that there was an end in mind. So we will review this, and I think we all will commit to being as expeditious as we possibly can.
Thank you. Mrs. Marcus?
Yeah, I'd like to agree with Mary on a lot of what she said. One of the things that each school has a different area where they can display signs and so on, and I think that to actually, that the school would have its own sort of regulation as to that's concerned. This is more of a general thing about banners, and so my concern is that there be some consistency about size and so on, so you don't have this mishmash of things that are out there. I think there should be some control over the size of the banner and so on. As far as I understand the problem with the desire to have the mural done. That's the thing that is, I know we just got this tonight, and I appreciate all the work that was going on. My concern right now is, of course, maybe doing something about the mural for the that has been considered for the outside of the school and the immediacy of it. That's the thing. I think you did a great job on presenting this, and I really like it. But my concern is, how can we deal with the one problem that's at hand right now?
So in terms of the mishmash and the aesthetics, for me personally, that's the last thing I care about. I think that when you look at what kids care about, generally speaking, and also some of the art that they produce, you could argue that it's not aesthetic, it's not feng shui, it's a lot of the things that it isn't. So for me personally, what comes to my mind in terms of banners and murals is, again, how is it in line with educational excellence? How is it an aesthetic or of historical importance to us? And I love that the city and the district made a resolution about the horrific atrocities that are going on in Iran, which absolutely communicates to me that having a mural of some sort makes sense. I do think that. But I also think that because we are in the service of a bunch of young people who go around and who will be potentially seeing this, and the public rights of way will be seeing this for a long time to come, I don't feel this is something that can be rushed necessarily. I think that a mural can communicate a lot of important things, and it can actually attract public attention in ways that we want. But again, in the interest of making sure that it is in line with what can benefit our kids first and foremost, I'd really want a process to think about it and to understand what is going up and for how long will it be there. Is there possibly like 3 alternative designs in case one isn't in the best interest, or another one's better, or another one seems to be more something that the kids would be receptive to. I also like what Nushin said, that to the extent that we can incorporate a lot of the process of this art and what these artisans are doing in terms of workshops and forums and dialogue with the artists, I think, again, that's what makes it real. So again, I don't care about mishmash. I don't care, in this portion of our discussion about that so much as how it can really work towards educational excellence and what our kids can appreciate across the developmental levels. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Stern. I glanced through the policy. I'll say this. Mary, I do agree about the location, and I think that's something that could be handled in the, sorry, I lost the page here, in the number 2, because the signs, you can get the signs, locations, and sizes all approved, and then the site office can kind of have a list to go from. This is where we put our murals. Dr. Stern, I will politely disagree with you about the mishmash. We're working very hard on making our buildings look beautiful, and I'm not a big fan of mishmash at this point. Temporary mishmash? Not temporary mishmash. That's what their bedrooms are for.
Mean, I would.
But sorry.
I would almost recommend, and I see the banners and the signs as very different as the mural. So when you're talking, it's almost kind of mishmash, the thinking behind it, because banners could be promoting an event,
right,
or a fundraiser, and so that's just a completely different intention and message that's being conveyed. And so I think when we talk about banners and signs, in many ways, I think location should be determined somewhat. It doesn't have to be rigid, but it's almost like how you have a style guide or a brand guide with our other assets that we use, creating a guide, a style guide for how to place banners and signs at the schools so that they do get captured and it's in a more organized way, so that it looks purposeful and it doesn't take away from the aesthetic of the school. And I think that's important for how we present ourselves and how the people and our neighbors are around us at perceiving how our school is. So I think that can be done from an exterior standpoint. There could be a guide. And then there's another meaning entirely, most likely from how you hang banners in the interior and signs. And I think, again, that's almost like creating a style guide and then allowing the school sites to make their own decisions based on what they do in that regard. I think the mural is different. I think the mural, we're talking about a permanent piece of art or
semi-permanent,
however it's determined to be. That's now becomes a bigger statement for us as a district. And so I think it is something that should be thoughtful. I think where it's placed should be thoughtful, that it is not only, how we choose where that spot is, not just this corner looks good. I know that, you guys identified that corner, but, I'd like to feel that we were more considerate about what is the right place for a mural, if we're placing a mural, and that's for any mural. I'm not talking specifically about the mural that Nushin is proposing. I'm talking very much just, very abstractly about murals. Like, where should it be placed so that it's actually adding to the environment of the school versus feeling like it just got put on there because that happened to be an available space. Now, for a banner, that might feel different to me, but for a permanent mural, it's almost, to me, it's also an aesthetic decision as to where it should be placed so that it's enhancing the school district's look as well as the message that it's conveying.
Thank you, Mary. I'm going to take back over and finish my thoughts now. That's okay. The other day at the open house at Beverly Vista, I noticed that they have banners on the basketball courts.
Yes.
Leading out to the yard with all of their sports. And it made my heart filled with joy when I saw that, not just because what the middle school has brought about, but the fact that they were the same size, the same color, placed in the same way, and really gave it a kind of a private school feel. I really got a good vibe from that. And I think that should kind of be the template for the banner and sign policy moving forward.
Okay.
I've always been a stickler about how the high school people hang signs around the high school very haphazardly, blue tape all over the place. They don't even roll it and put it behind so you don't see the tape. It's an easy thing to do. I'd love for there to be guidelines on that, because as we start opening new buildings here, we should preserve the look of the buildings and the professionalism of that, and not the mishmash. Sorry, Mandy. Up on murals, I thought about this a lot, and all of my life in the school district, the only murals I've seen were the senior class murals on the back of the parking area. I haven't seen murals anywhere else. We don't have any Wyland walls in our district.
Have you ever been to Hawthorne and
Yeah.
seen the mural on the front of all about?
Well, that's the mascot.
No, there's a whole wall above the library is a mural of a distinguished school thing.
Yes, the California Distinguished School. Beverly Vista has one on the side too. I don't count that as a mural actually, because it's more of an award, but
I would count the mural in the swim gym, the artwork in the swim gym, and at El Rodeo. Those
Right.
to me
The
are
artwork, it might be tile. It
Yeah,
might not
artwork,
necessarily
yeah.
be
To
paint.
me,
right.
that's-
Just the
it's in
idea.
that vein to me.
Right. The idea of just painting directly on a stucco wall, though, I'm not a fan of it. I have to say. I know you're trying to look at policy to govern that. For me, in my perfect world, I would support banners, and people can get signs made and hang those and display them. I'm not a fan of murals at all. The only murals I think I supported were the senior class murals, because those were done by students, and they continue to be so. My understanding is, and for the reason that they're tucked away in the back of the car of vehicular access, is because they're not necessarily the most beautiful murals in the world, but they're the mascots for that class. We were underdog. Thank you. So they keep painting over,
They do.
right? They just paint over it. It's like you get a couple years up there and then you get bumped. I think that's what it is. But I don't see murals as like a permanent school district way to go. All of these things that we talk about, including what Nushin has brought us, could be celebrated with large signs and banners as easily as they could be with a mural. So that's my 2 cents on it. Anyway, I don't know how we want to move forward with this, Dr. Bragi. I know the board wants to review the policy.
Yes, I mean, again, in
So-
full disclosure, we've worked on this over the last week, so we want to provide you with where we are.
I would say one other thing that just looking at this that I like, and this is more objective, not relating to the mural specifically and the timing for Nushin's mural, but just talking about murals. I like the idea of having a committee that looks at it. So we have a community representative, the admin. I liked that idea that you put in here. And I think that way you get input from everybody, and there's more representation about choosing that, and then having guidelines for how would you choose that. I like that. Yep. I like that approach. I know that from a timing standpoint, that's not ideal for Nushin, but I think as a district, it's ideal in terms of a process for us going forward, and I think that's really important.
I appreciate that feedback. I mean, we've really put a lot of work into our PACs, and the renewed efforts that are happening with our PACs to have them involved as well and to give them some guidelines is somewhat helpful, because as you can hear tonight, there's a lot of different viewpoints and there's a lot of different really important opinions. And so, having a group be able to review that is really important before a decision is made. So these are existing groups, so they're in place. So that's not so much timely, but I still think there's some input that I need to get from you after you get a chance to spend some time on this.
I'd like to make a suggestion also, because we're not. I keep referencing this more objectively, but we are also. There is the reality that we have a proposal from Nushin that has a time frame around it that she would like to see. And so I'm not suggesting that we push our policy, because I think that's really important for us as a district. But as an interim step, perhaps looking at a banner in the meantime for a March 8th deadline, so that we can participate in that way. But it allows us to really look at our policy and really be thoughtful about how we proceed with the policy, but support this March 8th Women's Day around that with the banner. And I don't know if that's an option that you would be open to, but I think that might be a great interim step while we really look at what the policy should be.
And it's something I'm happy to speak to Nushin about. Enjoy working with her. And her passion, and I'm happy to do a follow-up.
Terrific.
Anything else, colleagues?
I just wanted to say, I think I didn't realize actually that it was for International Women's Day originally. I thought it was tied to Nowruz. And so I wonder if there's, some kind of an acknowledgement we can do and tie some programming into that day to really put out the word and get that recognition and that awareness going. In conjunction with Farhang Foundation, who's already in our schools. So hopefully it would not be hard to establish some kind of collaboration quickly.
I agree. I mean, it's not necessarily now talking about murals, but we're talking about International Women's Day, and I think there's a great opportunity with that, and tying it in with the resolution that we had, and women's rights, and human rights, and I think that that's a really great opportunity, but separate from what we're talking about now.
Okay.
Agreeing with you on the thought that you had, and I would suggest that if we're going to do it, that we do it at all the locations. I think that would be something that a banner, and that might show our support for it, and it can be done very quickly. And I think that would be something that might, so we can make sure that we don't have to pass this tonight and make exceptions, but that we can make sure that we do observe the Women's Day, which is very important, and it is for our students, and I think making them aware of it and so on.
And also I'd like to add, to the extent that people do tune into social media, whether it's the BHUSD website or the Instagram, I think that to have images of this banner and also an explanation and the historical significance, and perhaps another copy of the resolutions that are important to us, so that it's woven together. And I know that going to a digital source is one of the go-tos for people these days to really understand what's going on. So
I think it's a fine idea to have these resources available to our schools. We can't sit here on the board and tell teachers what to teach and how to teach it. So I think if we just let them know that these are things that they can include in recognition of the day. I like the idea of putting the banners on all the sites. If we're going to do that, that's solidarity. Yeah, and I've seen that artwork on the street banners. I don't know if you've all seen it. Yeah, the greenish and white ones, the bluish and white ones. That's the same. I believe that's the same artist.
Are you talking about the ones that line Wilshire Boulevard?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Sorry, I think the one that you're seeing is more of like the greenish on the banners that are going around the city, but the
Right.
one that was presented to us was kind of the abstract female face.
right. But is
Yeah.
it not the same artist though?
Yes.
Yes. That's
it
that's
is.
so.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Thank you for that direction.
Great.
Thank you.
Great. Let's
Thank
do
you for speaking, Nushing.
communication from board members and meeting reports.
Well, I'd just like to thank Nusheen again for coming and speaking and taking your time, and I really appreciate it. Also, I just also wanted to thank our National Merit Scholarship finalists again and congratulate them. And that's it. I have no further comments. Oh, one other thing. Today, Judy and I attended the Parks and Recs Commission as the liaison, and I think that's going to be a great representation. We'll have a great partnership with them, especially as we're going into discussions around JPA. So that's really, I think it's going to be well worth our time.
And weren't you at a LACSA meeting, Mary?
Yes, thank
Well,
you.
I was going to talk about
I'll
that.
let Rochelle talk
Okay.
about that one. Thank you.
Thank you. So yes, today we attended the Parks and Recs Commission, which was actually it was really nice, and they were kind enough to put us at the beginning of their meeting so that we could make it to our closed session in time. And actually, Mary was kind enough to create a laundry list of all the things that we are accomplishing at our schools. It was much like a superintendent's report, which maybe we'll piggyback on next time. Perhaps, taking the prior meeting superintendent report. What she shared went on for a really long time. She lost her breath. And the reason why I say that is because there was just so much good stuff to share, and they really appreciated it. And we talked about what's going on at each of the schools. It was around, it circulated around what's happening with the kids, our Olympiad, our athletics, and it was just overwhelming how much good stuff we had to share. And they love to hear about it. So that's number one. Number two, they also welcomed our input and our suggestions as to more wraparound services and programming. And it felt great that we have 2 BHUSD parents on the commission, a former board member on the commission. And so, and city staff, they welcomed us and they want to hear from us. So if anybody from the public has any comments or suggestions as to what you'd like us to go back and share, or our fellow board members or any admin or staff, please let us know. And we'll be happy to do that for next time and open up the conversation. The second meeting that we actually also both attended was CBOC, which went well, and Dr. Breggy, you already spoke about it. The one thing I would like to say is that a couple of the new members really have on-point financial experience. And so although they were asking Raphael a lot of questions, which as usual he was immediately responding to and accommodating, but it felt really great to be there and have such a robust discussion and oversight and community involvement. So I would say both of those went really well.
I'm sorry, but that also reminds me that we attended the Finance Committee meeting this week as well. And that was a really great conversation, talking about the second interim budget and talking about budgeting going forward, and how we would work in our not deferred, but really a technology budget going forward, as well as what we would do with our GASB. I'm totally blanking on our OPEB, thank you, and our funding for OPEB. So this is going to be a further study session for the Finance Committee to come back and make recommendations for the board. So that, I think we're really lucky to have that committee and all the people dedicated to put their time into it.
Thank you. Well, I want to thank Nushin for being here tonight, and the time that she's spending on this and the passion that she shows, and I really appreciate it. So thank you for being here tonight. I would like to just, before I start my report, I'd like to say something that people in the community do not realize. You just heard 2 board members talk about how many meetings they've been to Yeah, we go to 2 meetings a month, but people think that's all the school board does, maybe. But you need to know that we are constantly at meetings of one sort or another, either with the city or with the board members and board committees and so on. And they just spent 3 times in addition to the others that they probably go to. So I just want to remind the community that being on the board just doesn't mean coming on Tuesday night and showing up. And I would like to, and on top of which, I do believe that I listened to those 2 meetings that they were at, although I couldn't say anything because that would have violated the Brown Act. So I just like to point out that we do attend a lot of meetings, and takes a lot of work. So for those of you that think we don't do anything, I just would like to share that. I have a couple meetings to report on. I went to the LACSA meeting last night. The presentation dealt with how districts use the science behind learning to read to improve reading proficiency. The presenter was a lady named Elise Lovejoy. She's the founder and CEO of Express Readers. She spoke about the K-2 foundational skills in reading programs. There is now proof that there is a science in how the brain is involved in learning to read. She discussed decoding, using sounds that relate, building blocks, and things like that. There seems to be a swing now from the new, well, it swings back every many years, but we're back almost to phonetics now as far as I can see. And so some factors that need to be considered in removing, going back to this, is teacher training, resources, and accountability. Hopefully knowledge might help to this type of learning might help to reduce illiteracy, low academic scores, suspensions, and dropouts, that all of this new learning will help the students. And as I listened, I thought about our K-2 and what our teachers are using in teaching students to read. And perhaps we should have a little presentation about that in a future meeting in our program of teacher-student thing. I would love to see something like that. And on top of which, I would love to be able to visit a classroom to observe that if it's possible. I think that's something that I would love to personally do. So that's my report on LACSA. Yesterday I attended the Health and Safety Commission. I gave my report, very lengthy, but the fire department then presented a comparison. They showed a comparison of the January 22nd a year ago and January 23rd of this year, the number of calls that they have made. And when asked why there were so many more this year, the obvious answer was weather. So many calls are being related to the problems with the weather and the rain and so on. They talked about fire extinguishers in the home and which ones are going to be recommended, and training people and so on, which was, I thought, very interesting. That was followed by the police, whose discussion centered on an increase in stolen cars, mostly because the one reason that people's cars are stolen is they just leave the keys in the car and leave them unlocked.
Who has keys in it?
But the other thing was interesting is that they're stealing catalytic converters out of cars. Yeah. And I don't know what cars use catalytic, not the electric vehicles, I guess, is it? So they're now thinking that may be a deterrent if everybody uses an electric vehicle. They also talked about something called embezzling. Now, I didn't know what embezzling meant, but people rent or lease cars, and then they never return them when they are through using them, and they just let them sit wherever they let them sit, and then all of a sudden they get reported as stolen cars, and that's called embezzling. So I just thought that was interesting. One of the things that the police department talked about is their response time and how great their response time is. Their response time, as an average, is 2 minutes and 4 seconds to every emergency as an average. And when asked about why, they said it's due to their deployment, number of officers, and the speed with which their command center can help them. And of course, we have such a thing also. So that was. Then they went on to talk about something that came up, and I don't know if we're aware of this. It's called Netetera, onguardonline.gov. It's an security program about all aspects of security for kids and so on, and parents. It might be something we might want to put out there. I looked it up. It was really quite comprehensive. So I have that information for you. And then they also discussed 2023 calendar about what might be the possible themes and discussions for the year. Now my report. Without that, I would love to just tell you how proud I am of all the laurels in our school district. We forgot one tonight. Horace Mann School, first place Science Olympiad in the city regional competition. So I wanted to make sure that I got that in because it's somehow in all the readings that I had. So that's my report. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mrs. Marcus. I just have a short report for you. I went to the Human Relations Commission monthly meeting, and I want to let you know that there is this inaugural signature event called Festival BH. And I don't know if you've heard about it, but Sunday, March 12th from 8 to 12:30 at the Farmers Market. This is stemming from the Embrace and Celebrate Culture initiative. And they're trying to really beef up a lot of the things that go on at the Farmers Market. So there's going to be art booths, and there's going to be dance, and there's going to be music. And there are going to be some students, including my son, who will be playing music from the audio production class. And it should be very interesting. It's also directed by and led by Next BH, as well as HRC. And then another interesting thing I learned of at the meeting was there's a group called DIB, which stands for Diversity, Inclusion, and Belonging. And I wasn't aware of this, but I like this and I can appreciate this. There is a group of people that support Beverly Hills city employees, and it is called Diversity, Inclusion, Belonging. And its origins, as they were explaining, was during the COVID crisis, and then that led to a lot of other things that went on. There was civil unrest, the George Floyd atrocity. This was around May, June 2020. And that's when they organized this. And one of their efforts is to lessen and destigmatize workplace mental health issues. So that is yet another wonderful resource that our city has. So those are the two things I wanted to report upon. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Stern. Thank you, colleagues. I once again want to thank Irma Hopkins and Victoria Tate sharing your stories regarding Black History Month and your experiences. I want to thank KBEV. I always forget to thank you guys on air. I'm going to thank you tonight. I also have a little quick shout out to Ricky, who takes my posted link from YouTube and somehow magically makes it appear here. Something that I can't do because I'm not an administrator, so I can't do that. And Rebecca for posting it on the district's site too, because once again, I don't have control of that too. Otherwise, I'd be all over the place.
Can I ask, are you finished? I just want to ask one question.
Are you finished?
You finished? I'm finished.
Am I finished?
Not finished.
Yes, I'm finished.
Okay. What is with the governor's thing about the hybrid and the going to affect us, and how are we going to be handling that? The new, we still meet with the hybrid, or
the meeting. You're talking about the meeting format.
Yeah, our meetings and so on. Now that governor has no longer ahead of us under emergency.
So one of the provisions is that if you are not at the meeting, you have to share your address on the agenda. So I'll send you the full article that has all the information. But that's one of them, is that if you can't attend the meeting in person, you have to list your address.
Which we used to have to do.
Right.
Wait, you're saying this just applies to school meetings, or
probably all
Brown Act
governed meetings.
Governed
Before COVID, when you were not here and let's say a colleague needed to call in, you had to post on the agenda where you were calling from, the actual address.
Yeah.
So you could do it, you just have to post it. So.
But you can still do Zoom, right? You can do it by Zoom? Well, that's still, okay.
Yes.
Thank you, colleagues. Meeting, we have a study session next week, very exciting, on construction and facility stuff. And our regular meetings are March 14th and March 28th, because the great thing about February and March is those dates are always the same, right? 28 days,
Right.
we hit the clock. Something to be said about that lunar calendar. Meeting adjourned.